What's going on, everybody? It's that one guy who wears a Harley jacket on a Honda, Spite. And yeah, I'm back at it once again to share a list of the 7 biggest mistakes I've made in my riding career. Whoa, wait a minute, diving right into it without a big, long, overly elaborate intro? Usually there's a whole bunch of memes right off the bat to get us all riled up. And yeah, this one's starting a bit quicker today, but there's a good reason. I've noticed in the year and a half or so that I've spent on the Discord, early plug, that a lot of people tend to fall into a few very common, or at least common to me, pitfalls as they start their riding journey. I've watched people agonize over their first bike. Should I get a 300 or a 400? Should I buy new or used? That they miss the bigger picture. And I can see this happening so clearly because they're the same things I was agonizing over 4 years ago when I was contemplating getting on a bike for the first time. Now, since I know a lot of folks might not get too far into this one, let me say this. If you want to get on 2 wheels, the best thing you can do for yourself, regardless of your situation, is buy a cheap but DOT and ECE rated helmet in person so that you're sized up for it, and then go take the MSF course. Seriously, those few hours out on the range will tell you more about motorcycles and their place in your life than 1,000 YouTube videos. But for the rest of you, allow me to take the next few minutes to absolutely roast myself publicly and show you 7 times that I was an absolute bonehead and how I would have done it better had I known then what I know now. I have a feeling this one might get a little Christmas carol-y up in here, but stick with me because I think it's going to be a good one. Number 1, I bought my first bike before I took the MSF course. Now let me start off by saying I made the first 3 of my 7 mistakes all on one day. That's gotta be some kind of a record, but anyway, my dumbest mistake was buying my first motorcycle before I even knew how to ride. Let me set the stage for you. It was December 2016 and a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Spite wanted to get that first bike. I'd spent the last few weeks and months looking up bikes trying to figure out which one was right for me. From reviews and first impressions to scrolling through photos and a little bit of soul searching, I figured, you know what? I think a cruiser's the right style of bike for me, and I had narrowed it down to 2 contenders, the Indian Scout 60 and the Harley-Davidson Street Rod 750. I wandered over to my local Indian dealership and they told me I couldn't get a Scout at their 0% for 60 months loan because I was 2 points shy on my credit score, and once I found that out, I left never to return. As a side note, I often wonder how my riding career would have gone if I'd have fought a little bit harder for that Scout. But anyway, the next day I drove down to my Harley dealer and signed a loan for a shiny 0-mile Street 750. It was the best feeling in the whole wide world until they delivered it to my house and I had to park it in my garage for the next 2 months. When I finally took the bike out on the road after the MSF, I started feeling uncomfortable and cramped and generally unhappy with the bike. I didn't know any better at the time, but that was because the motorcycle was just too small for a guy my size. Once that dawned on me, I realized that I was stuck with a bike that didn't fit, that I couldn't sell because I was so upside down on it, it felt like a real-life Poseidon adventure. The moral of this story is no matter how gung-ho you are to get into riding, never, ever buy that first bike until you take the MSF course. This leads me into number 2, trusting the salesman. Since I didn't know what I was doing at the time, and it was my first time making a major purchase, I had nothing to go on beyond what the sales guy at the dealership said. Is this bike too much for a beginner? Nah, man, you'll be fine. Is this bike too small for a guy my size? Nah, we've got a whole bunch of parts that are designed to make it fit you. Isn't 13% kind of a huge interest rate? Nope, it's totally standard. If your sales guy says the words, "trust me," you need to find someone else because in my experience, that means they're getting ready to upsell you on something that either you don't need or don't want. Here's the thing. You can study a bike all you want, memorize the spec sheets, internalize all the industry buzzwords, and know exactly what the common reliability issues are, but if you can't ride the motorcycle, don't buy the motorcycle. This goes for used bikes as well. Now, a lot of dealerships will have rules saying that if you don't have 6 months or so under your belt, you can't take a test ride of that bike, and that means you probably shouldn't be buying from them simply because you don't know what you're gonna get. Don't trust the salesman's got your best interest at heart. They're not bad people, they're just salesmen. This provides me a nice neat segue into number 3, and that's never bundling gear into your loan. When I got my first bike, I didn't have any gear, and as I was talking to the salesman, he offered me a $1,000 gear credit. What that means is you're going to have to slap an extra grand on your loan, and you'll be paying 13% on that gear for the next 5 years. Those boots that I bought from Harley, they lasted me 18 months. My awesome $500 Willie G. Davidson limited edition leather jacket, I can only wear it in the winter because I live in Texas. What about that Harley branded CE armor I had to buy separate, $50 a pair? I replaced them with $35 D3O pads in a few weeks. All the while, I was still making payments on it for months even after the bike was gone. Now, sometimes a dealership will throw gear in for free into the sale if they really want to sweeten the deal, but make sure it's actually free and not a line item on your loan. Learn from my mistakes here and never ever finance your gear. But you want to know what's not a mistake? Heading over to YammieNoob.co and signing up to support the channel. Not only will you be entered to win some free motorcycles and get a super early sneak peek at our little surprise we've got coming your way, but you'll get instant access to our Discord server. Now, I might have told you not to trust the salesman a little early on, but I really wish I had a community like this when I started out. It would have been nice to not make all of these kinds of decisions all by myself. Or maybe you're one of those people that's got enough friends who ride and doesn't want to hang out with Yammie, but you still want a chance to win a motorcycle. Well, you'd hurt my feelings, but you can head over to YammieNoobMerch.com and get yourself some of our merch, and if you use the code TRIPLE2020, you'll get 10% off your entire order and 2x entries to win the bikes. If you like what we do here, this is the best way that you guys can support us, and it's why I get to do what I love every day. So click those links down below to sign up, and to those of you who already are, I wanted to stop for a second and just say thank you. Now, let's get back into it. Number 4, buying the second bike too soon. So let's fast forward a year into my riding career, and it was time to get me that second bike. Oh yeah, the N+1 kicked in pretty early for old Spite, but let me tell you, the first time I clamped eyeballs on a red Honda 919, I knew I just had to have one. The problem is I let myself get carried away and I bought a deeply flawed bike as a result. In 2 months, I scraped together $3,000 by eating nothing but instant ramen and ran out and bought the first 919 I could find. The problem was I didn't do any research. Here at Yammie Noob, we say that motorcycles are an emotional purchase, and if you see a bike that makes you happy, it's probably the right bike for you, but I'd like to add a small caveat to that. You need to know what you're getting into with that kind of a bike. I didn't know that 919s ran way too rich at idle, so I'd essentially be spending my entire commute sitting in a cloud of unburned gas and exhaust. I didn't know that 919s had an issue with their throttle position sensors, and in rare cases you need to replace the entire throttle body. I didn't know that adding a power commander to the bike meant tapping into the bike's wiring harness. I learned all that stuff the hard way. Would knowing that before jumping in have prevented me from getting a 919? Nope. But it would have had me take a little bit longer to find the right one, not the first one. Number 5, the DRZ. Oh boy, where do I even begin with this rolling heap? Whether it's the tires being smoother than your sack after a Manscaped ad, the title being all kinds of not right, to the carburetor being sicker than a college freshman after a well party, this bike has been a royal pain in my ass since I bought it in January. Let me give you a little bit of background to this one. I was thinking about getting a Harley Sportster and piecing together a neat little scrambler build. I found the right bike, priced out all the parts, and then I thought, I want something just a little bit cheaper. Then I found this hunk of junk going for $2,500 in Houston. It stalled once on the test ride, but I wrote it off as just #DRZ things. Now it's sitting at the garage up at Yammie Noob HQ waiting for a new carburetor to come in. Here's the thing, I love that bike. It's why I'm comfortable dumping close to $1,000 worth of parts into it, but every time I go to the shop, I see it sitting there in pieces and I just wish I could ride the damn thing. The lesson here is when you go to get a project bike, if it doesn't run the whole time you're testing it or it starts hard, pass on it. There's other fish in the sea. If you can't ride your project, it's going to be nothing but a big disappointment. Number 6, not finding fellow riders soon enough. This one's pretty quick and simple. I just wish I had made some riding friends sooner. I was nervous about putting myself out there, but once I found my group, my riding life really got better. You can only learn so much on your own, so if you're on the fence about going to your local bike night because you're worried about what people might think about you or your bike, just go. If the crowd's not right, then you can leave and try another one. I think that's the toughest thing for me in all of this lockdown stuff. It's just not being able to go hang out and talk a bunch of bullshit for 3 hours every Tuesday and then ride every weekend. As much as riding can be a solitary and meditative activity, I think it's way better with friends. Number 7, not taking risks. Now this one is going to be hard for me to get right because it contradicts pretty much everything on this list, but the biggest thing I regret is not taking more risks, or at least taking them sooner. Now don't get me wrong, I stand by everything I've said for the past 10 minutes, but had I jumped into motorcycling sooner, or had gotten the right 919 sooner, or any number of other things that didn't make this list, I can't imagine where I'd be today. This is the point I've been trying to make in a real roundabout way, and that's if you're sitting at home on your computer watching another small displacement shootout on YouTube instead of riding, you're doing it wrong. Please, go take that MSF class, get your first bike, go drop it in a parking lot. Just get on 2 wheels. I've made a bunch of dumb mistakes, but looking back over these 4 years, the main thing I regret is not making all these stupid mistakes sooner. And there you have it, 7 mistakes that I've made on my motorcycling journey. Hopefully they'll help you avoid some of the pitfalls of getting started, or maybe your story sounds an awful lot like mine. I know this wasn't as funny as some of our other videos, but at the end of the day, I hope you can get yourself on a bike and just have fun with it. It's really amazing that we can still ride these 2-wheeled missiles around, and who knows how much longer they'll be around for. With that, I'm gonna sign off and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Fact: by the time he was 5 years old, Mozart had complete mastery of keyboards and violin and had written his first 5 compositions. By 16, he had already written 3 operas and 25 symphonies, and I thought getting out of bed this morning was an achievement. Goodbye.